zero and a number.
Single sport. We will be
Welcome. Sports right now, and of course, joining me in the studio as usual, I've got Kayode Baker, and we have Ibong as well. Good morning,
Hi,
Ibong. How
good
you
morning.
doing?
Yeah, good morning. Good morning, Folu. Good morning, Kayode. Good to be back.
All right, great to have you both here with us. And also up on the phone line, who we're going to put on air right now, we have got coming in from Asaba. We have got Tega Tiger in the studio. Tega, are you there and can you hear us? Fan- Fantastic. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Great to have you here with us. All right. So, Lagos, we are going to jump into, of course, today's sports stories as we usually do. Do remember that to chat with us in the studio, what you need to do is to use the hashtag LockerRoom981 up on Twitter. Send us your messages on WhatsApp as well, 0809 444 And, of course, go over to our YouTube live stream right now where you can see us just looking in the studio. So Tega, Asaba 2018, we've been hearing all sorts of stories coming out of there. Some not so good, but we want to hear it from the horse's mouth. How are you doing out there?
See this way, a miscommunication between most teams and the LOC. So a lot of teams didn't send a lot of the information that they were supposed to send that we needed. I will give you an example. Um, they did not send their information that we needed. Needed and Ethiopia. They came in from they came in from Enugu,
Okay.
and when they came in from Enugu, there was no drama because they were literally the only thing that came into Enugu. When they had come for preparation, they told them that there were three international airports that teams to come from, and LOC, the LOC will now move them from those airports
Right. Okay.
in Lagos.
Oh, wow.
But now, where part of the trouble was, so everybody arrives in Lagos, and not everybody passed their information through the LOC. So that was part of the problem. There was now a scramble, and you have to understand from Lagos, Asaba Airport does not have light. So by 5 p.m., no flights land in Asaba.
Chai.
So you can imagine having delegation from 51 countries of Africa, and they are all arriving Lagos, and you don't want to get to Asaba. How is it possible to come to that route without that kind of bottleneck? So that was where most of the problem was. So if some of them had arrived in Port Harcourt, and some of them had joined Ethiopia in Enugu, then there'd be, the logistics problems, it won't be that far.
Okay, but Tega, here's a question though. Why do you think there was that breakdown in communication? Why do you think a lot of these teams um
We can't sing. And I keep saying this thing that yes, we have with issues and organizations. It's an African thing. If we had done that thing in a city that had an international airport, you will never hear of logistics problem. I mean, we held the wrestling championships in Port Harcourt. Everybody arrived in Port Harcourt and it was easy peasy because it's an international airport. But Asaba does not have an international airport.
I see what you're saying. So
At an international airport to get there, yeah.
okay, so what about comments by a sports minister saying things when there were questions about the stadium being ready on time? And he made comments saying, well, on the day, she was starting tomorrow, and I'm paraphrasing here, but on the day, we'll make sure we'll see whether things will be fine on that day. It should be. These shouldn't we be prepared and ready months in advance? Shouldn't facilities have been tested well in advance?
Yeah, here is part of the problem with the sports minister. First of all, he's the sports minister, so you have to understand that there are many things that he'll say that we'll have to correct later. First of
Oh dear.
yeah. So we get to the stadium, and the Delta say we have this right, but when you get right to host something, you also have to realize that, especially in Nigeria, a state has to take up that responsibility to say, okay, I'm going to host this thing, because most in general federations don't have their own money. Sports is not private sponsored; it is still government sponsored largely. So Delta State was one that said, okay, you know what, we'll take it upon ourselves to help you. And they completed that stadium. You need to see the stadium. I have sent you pictures, a few pictures of the. So today I'm going to send you a few videos so you understand.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. We'll be retweeting that.
Stadium is complete. The stadium is fantastic. The athletes are balling. I mean, they're having fun. But again, the sports minister weighed this his politics. I mean, he gets into an office and instead of executing the duties of the office, he's playing politics, and that's the bottom line. So there are a lot of things he didn't know about. He came in, gave a speech because of his office. It was his office giving the speech, not necessarily him. So he gave a speech, and then he disappeared the very next day. He's not in Asaba. He came for work. So when the sports minister talks, sometimes you have to take some things with a pinch of salt. Like, okay, what does he really mean? Until he, expatiates on it, you just.
All right. Tega, thank you so much for checking in with us this morning. We appreciate you calling us. Please try not to stay too long in Asaba. We're still waiting for you back here in the studio, right?
I'll see you on Monday. I will try.
Do your best. Thank you very much. Tega Olajaife has been speaking to us live from Asaba. But we are going to move on now with more of our sports stories. But before we do, Inyobong, I mean, what are your thoughts on what's been going on out there? And of course, Tega filling us in on the happenings on the ground.
From the athletics point of view, you're excited that the tournament has started and medals are coming in, countries are winning medals. And from a sports point of view, quite excited that the tournament has gone on fine. But I mean, the things happening around the tournament, it's quite sad. A water tank yesterday dropped from the sky and
yeah, we spoke about that.
Smashed two cars, and it's something that some things are happening in this tournament where you quite find it very disheartening, and at the risk of trying to lay into people or criticize people, it's something that honestly shouldn't be done, and we've got to be honest to say these things and just be fair enough to admit that we haven't quite covered ourselves in glory in some of the things we've heard around. I saw pictures on Twitter a couple of days ago of journalists not having workspace, sitting on the floor, and the local organizing committee doing their bits, trying to do some PR about it, saying it's not true. But international journalists and foreign journalists are sitting on the floor, they're treating these things, some of them quite embarrassed, some of them some unprintable things said about Nigeria and all of that. But again, there are lots of negatives, but I think we want to focus on the positives.
Yeah, I think there are lots of positives to focus on as well, but thank you very much for that. Now, speaking of things to focus on, let's look at the NFF Congress backing Thick and Wing Giwa. So the Nigerian Football Federation Congress on Thursday passed a vote of confidence in the Amaju Pinnick NFF board, insisting that they remain the duly elected body recognized by FIFA. Now the Congress also resolved that any member of the football family who takes any football matter to, and I quote, the ordinary courts of law would be automatically expelled from all football activities with immediate effect from the date of filing such proceedings or suit.
It does look like the NFL will be putting in for the Oscars this year, because
they should, right?
In all honesty, it's comedy of errors. It's comedy of errors, and it keeps on unraveling. It keeps coming up with new episodes and the like. And on Wednesday, we're talking about the fact that the ministry, the Federal Ministry of Youth and Sports, came out and said the Congress should not hold the NFF. The Amaju Pinnick NFF these days went ahead to hold the Congress. They came out, they're trying to woo Giwa, trying to see how they can reach a compromise. Remember, Giwa FC, owned by Chris Giwa, the man at the center of all the controversies, was expelled a few years ago. NFF have come out to say they were not expelled, they were relegated to the lower tier of Nigerian football. Just lots of shambles. And Giwa is coming out and saying, I'm not interested in what they're doing. I don't care what they're doing. We didn't hear about any Congress. As far as I'm concerned, I'm the legitimate Nigerian Football Federation president. So lots of compromise trying to be rich, but I don't think we're heading anywhere, because clearly, as he stated, interference of any kind will attract a severe punishment from FIFA. And that it does look like it's not going to go away soon, because the NFF clearly, from the Congress yesterday, looked like they were trying to get on the round table and see if the voice of reasoning would be listened to, but it doesn't look like that.
All right. Well, thank you very much for that. Of course, you are listening to The Locker Room on Smooth Breakfast, Smooth 98.1. It's with Kayode Baker, myself, Folu, and Amanda Inyobong joining us in the studio. So feel free to tweet at us as well. Don't forget, use the hashtag LockerRoom981 and send us messages to our WhatsApp number 0809 4440981, because we'll be reading out the messages from those platforms and of course from our live stream on YouTube right after we take this break. Don't go anywhere.
Smooth Breakfast.
The Smooth Breakfast Show.
Smooth Breakfast with Folu and Val.
Indeed, it is just the two of us this morning.
We don't have a pen. It's your secondary school's thing. Like, everyone's bragging about their accomplishments.
And still can't get through to
I called him and he goes, we can't get the battery now until
You
he
realize
comes.
you're not with your ATM card or cash.
So what we'll do is always
Guys,
have a
sorry, the
backup.
sound is a bit rubbish at the moment.
As
We're
an
having sound
uncle,
issues, but
you
please
wonder
bear
if
with us.
it's
We will
possible
resolve
without
them
a
very
union
soon.
bank account.
Thank
Just
you.
generate a pay code
Yes,
with
sir.
your bank.
That's the best I can do. Let's see if we can also find Tega up here so we can retweet one of these pictures she said she put up. So, Tega Supreme. You typed in something else. Go back. Let's type in Tega. It's just the first thing that comes up when you type in Tega. There you go. Excellent.
Yeah.
There's a pinned tweet.
This has to be it.
Wait, hang on.
Your comments.
There you go.
Did you put the what? When did you story last? Okay.
With comment hashtag.
981? Yes.
Yeah. Hashtag Tega. She hates, but I don't care. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, that.
Oh, hashtag Asaba 2018, sorry. Important hashtags. There you go. Yeah. And then we'll wait for the other pictures that I think she has put up.
Should I just copy those hashtags?
Yeah. Okay, it's okay. Yeah, just redo it. And then tweet me as well with this hashtag. Alright, we're back in the studio. And we are back in, still talking sports right here inside the locker room. It is with Kayode Baker.
And of course, Folu Storms.
Yes, indeed. And we've got Bong Monday in the studio with us as well. Good morning, sir. Welcome once more. Great to
Good
have
morning.
you. You heard sir and you like flinched like, what? Who, me? Is it I? Is it me? She's like, yeah, it's you. You can be a sir sometimes. But we'll move on. We've got more sports stories for you.
Okay, so this one is coming from Chelsea, and what basically Chelsea midfielder, that's Willian. He says here, Chelsea midfielder Willian says he has been instructed by his lawyers to act after a forged document was circulated on the football market. Now, the letter appears to show the 29-year-old's signature authorizing a change of agents who represent him. However, William claimed he never signed the letter in an Instagram post on Thursday. Could it be because he's been linked with Barcelona, Manchester United, Real Madrid?
It looks like Willian is one of the most keenly sought after players in Europe this season. Had a very good work, a fantastic player, quality player, and he's the guy who can literally walk into any football club in the world. He's that good. It's fantastic. And when the story broke, and we thought maybe Willian is pushing for a move, really, maybe because they say there's no smoke without fire. And I think he's come out to clear it clearly, and he maybe doesn't want a change of agents, but I think he wants a change of clubs. I think he wants to go to. It's a massive football club, and for a player at that level, you want to play for a club like Barca.
How about Manchester United? How about Manchester United? Because they also want him.
I think the chance to reunite with Jose Mourinho could also be tempting, but I mean, when you have Manchester United and now Barcelona, clearly you would go for Barcelona because at the moment, as it stands, you have a more realistic chance of winning things at Barcelona than you would at Manchester United, with due respect to them. So I think Willian has had his head turned, really, like they say in football. He's had his head turned, and he's a bit unsettled, and that's a big question because he was supposed to report back in training. He hasn't done that, and then the manager Mauricio Sarri is very frustrated.
So that means that Eden Hazard, Willian, and possibly N'Golo Kante might be leaving Chelsea?
I don't think N'Golo Kante will leave. I don't think Hazard will leave because clearly we understand there's a crunch meeting today where Mauricio Sarri is going to tell Eden Hazard and Thibaut Courtois that they're going nowhere. And I don't think Kante will leave because the transfer window gets shut in England next week, Thursday.
Okay.
And the implication is that Chelsea might have very limited time to replace these players if they sell. I mean, if you sell Hazard, let's say tomorrow, you have left 5 days to replace Hazard. And you know how good Hazard is as a footballer. So I don't think Chelsea would be, forgive me for using the word stupid, to sell a player of that quality 5 days to the end of transfer window. So I don't think Chelsea would want to do business at this point. But one player who seems very likely to be heading to the exit door is Thibaut Courtois, the goalkeeper. Real Madrid hot on his case, and Chelsea already identifying Everton goalkeeper John Pickford.
All right. To be a part of our conversation, don't forget Lagos. It's 0809-444-0981 up on WhatsApp. And you can also reach out to us on Twitter using the hashtag LockerRoom981.
Indeed. Victor says, he says, to run away. My hands can't even deal. He says our football needs a total overhauling because we can't go places with all of this politics. I know Sister Folu will agree with me. Chimabi, don't drag me into this, but perhaps I do in this particular situation. Anyways, let's move on to our next story. How Fulham have confirmed the signing of Alfie Mawson in a £15 million deal from Swansea. So the 24-year-old has become the latest summer arrival at Craven Cottage, joining the likes of Jean-Michael Seri, Andre Schuler, and a number of others. And he was a standout player for Swansea during the 2017-18 season, scoring 3 times in 44 appearances as they unsuccessfully battled against relegation.
Young defender whose career is on the rise, was linked with moves to West Ham and a few other clubs, and was one of the better stories from coming from Swansea when they were relegated last season in the Premier League. £15 million, decent fee for a player who I think would give Fulham great quality defensively and of course offensively, when you consider that as a defender last season scored 3 goals for Swansea. Very, very good player. And to spend more than any other person in the history of English football. No promoted side has spent the amount of money Fulham have spent already, over £80 million. And when you consider that they spent more than Man City, they spent more than Arsenal, they spent more than Manchester United in this summer, you quite get excited about what they will be able to do next season. Fulham, great club, because very traditional club, been in the Premier League a few times, but great to see Alfie Mawson in the Premier League. I certainly think he would do well at the football club.
Do you think they're trying to pull off Leicester City?
No chance.
On the Premier League?
No
season?
chance. That will happen again in another 200 years. Certainly won't be alive to see it. 200
years, he says, but there are messages up on WhatsApp.
This one coming in from Charles Judas, it says, all this is about Valentine Giwa and Olive Branch is beginning to sound like they're giving him the entire garden. Giwa has problems, but the FS problem is worse. The man is on the ban. He should have nothing to do with football.
People having very strong opinions of that.
Also, Biggie from Casey says, we have to find a way to remove the sport minister from the seat. I think he doesn't understand the meaning of sports. He should go and scout boys in the jungle.
Wow, ooh, very serious stuff. JJ from Mushin says, we thank God that Tega is on ground to give us first-hand information on Asamba 2018. So all that talk was not all true. Where is the law on false news at? But why we Africans like this? We just love scatter. But I wish them a successful tournament. JJ, that's not what she said. She did say, though, there has been miscommunication, but that it's not all as horrible as it seems. And I think that was a big distinction that was being made.
Okay, so let's talk about what's happening with Ahmed Musa, and he's moving from Leicester City to a Saudi Arabia. Well, the story here says Nigerian forward Ahmed Musa has left Leicester City to Al Nassr for an undisclosed fee. The Saudi Arabian club has announced. Now, the 25-year-old was Leicester City's record signing when he joined them for about £16 million from CSK in 2016.
The Ferrari, when he joined Leicester City with real pace about him, high hopes for him that he would do very well in the Premier League, but it didn't work out for him at Leicester City. 2 goals in 21 games at Leicester City, and they farmed him out on loan to CSK Moscow. Now he's gone to the East and he's going to make money. I mean, it's his retirement money, in my opinion, because when you go to Saudi Arabia, it's not for the fancy football, it's not for the breathtaking football. It's clearly about thinking about another 20 years. I remember his story building up to the World Cup. Oscar, former player, playing the World Cup.
What was the response?
I don't want to play at the World Cup, and in the future I will be broke. And I will tell my children I played at the World Cup.
Well, here's a question, though, because I know you talked about Ahmed Musa not really performing while he was in the Premier League. Do you think that also has to do with the culture? Because I do find that the English teams do tend to be a little bit cliquey, and a lot of players, also we see other European players who are moving in from other leagues, maybe Serie A, etc., not quite fitting in and not really feeling at home, and so they're not quite performing their best.
I don't think African players have problems in the Premier League, because most of the times players who find it very difficult to adapt to the rigors of the Premier League are the South Americans, the the guys who speak Latin who can't speak English. It's a big problem for them because they cannot communicate with their teammates, and it's a big issue. But for Musa, I think his problem started when the manager who signed him, Claudio Ranieri, was fired, and at the football when you, he has lots of trust and hopes on you, and then another manager comes on board who comes in with a different tactics, come with a different method, a different style of philosophy. It's big problem for a player. So that was a big problem with Musa, because when the manager came in after Claudio Ranieri, Craig Shakespeare, he didn't quite fancy Musa. He didn't quite like his style of play, and it was a big problem. So I don't think it's down to the player, but down to the fact that there were changes in the managerial post.
But it's still a fitting in issue, which is what I see, because then you're still the outsider and no one was really there to sort of bring you in fully and integrate you into that team.
Yeah, big issue too. And clearly he is a guy who the Premier League, we thought the Premier League would be well suited to him because of his pace. Is very quick.
Now, saying the pace, could it be that Jamie Vardy, just never gave him the light of day? Because, looking at Jamie Vardy, looking at Ahmed Musa, you have to say, Jamie Vardy would always be the first.
Yeah, clearly, first choice. But Ahmed Musa can play on the flanks. He can play as center forward, but the number 9 position clearly was always going to be Jamie Vardy's on all day, every day. But for Ahmed Musa, he just couldn't find himself the resources to be able to perform in the league.
All right, let's talk about a Nigerian player who did perform quite well during his time there, Kanu, but he's now talking about Arsenal, saying that they need a miracle to win the Premier League. Not sure why we're talking about winning, but Unai Emery's Arsenal must produce a miracle to win Premier League, according to former striker Kanu and the former Paris Saint-Germain boss Emery, who succeeds Arsene Wenger after 22 years, backing every title.
I think that's a miracle to win the Premier League.
Wow, what was so rude? I'll switch off your mic, Sean.
At least this season, I don't think Arsenal have got the resources to be able to go out there and challenge for the title. Saw their game against Chelsea in preseason on Wednesday, and still having issues. Even though you could say that reading too much into preseason would be very naive. But at this point, Arsenal need a lot of consistency. They need a spine. The spine of the team has got to be great. They've got to go out there clearly with a mentality, which I think at the moment a lot of the players don't have, because a mentality most of the times comes from an amount of success you've gathered over time. And I think the Arsenal players have not really tasted enough genuine success to be able to in recent times to go into the season with a lot of confidence and think they can challenge. So more than a miracle, in my opinion.
All right, thank you very much for that. Well, I say that with tongue-in-cheek. I'm not really thankful for that particular analysis, but fair enough. Lagos are taking a quick break. When we come back, final 3 minutes talking sports inside the locker room, and we are still going to take your messages up on WhatsApp, up on Twitter, and of course up on our live feed on YouTube. Keep listening. It's Sports Inside the Locker Room on Smooth Breakfast.
Morning.
Good job, guys.
Mr. Believe.
Morning.
Alpha.
Morning. Folu. Your mic. Alpha.
It's 25 years. Why is this guy like
Don't
this?
mind all these haters. Don't be a hater, Big T. Don't be a hater. The man is 25 years old. Leave him alone. Let your ass be weak.
About Musa.
Yeah.
Nigerians.
Leave them alone. Everybody's age is always
One
circumspect.
video. I will send you one video about Kanuanko Hirek now. So when he wanted to sign Kanuanko, called
Sorry?
Kanuanko. That time Kanuanko was not doing anything. He asked Kanuanko, what are you? He said he's been playing.
Oh,
He said,
feel
come.
good.
Said Tony Adams, who was former teammate of Kanuanko.
But this
Claimed that
standard in
Kanuanko was
Nigeria, we don't have
14
lights.
years.
It's not. So this is not a real question. When we call it this for people in abroad when they have no lights, that's a rare occurrence. People regularly don't have lights. You sleep, you light candles, you on your generator. It's not,
When you wanted to
no one is going to call you for that.
Portsmouth. He said Kanu was 48. He said
Not a
he should
news
come.
situation.
He said Kanu played 8 years more. That means he was 56. If you see the video, I will send you your laugh die.
That's a lie.
He said Kanu was 48. You know what I think? You see this Weibo? This Weibo know that.
They know that
This age that we give them
yes,
is
it's
a
not the
lie.
one.
But as long as you're giving them what they want, they don't bloody care. Because
Okay.
they know that you cannot live in Africa for so long and then come to you and say you're 25.
Of course not.
So,
People like Mikel though. they're
Mi-
right,
Mikel
the right
Young.
age.
Yeah.
Yeah, not sure they're in the right age.
Yeah.
You know.
When you say right age, it doesn't mean that they are true.
Yeah, like 2 years younger, 3 years younger.
Yeah, exactly. No, we can a grandfather. Can don't reach 55. Because in they play football, Kayode, do you know that if you play football, you can keep this body for another 15 years?
Maybe.
If you play football regularly, because they train, they say you to lose weight, you've got to be burning 4K for this thing every day. Players go on training ground, lose 10 every day.
Ah.
You know, so
We're back in 16 seconds.
I think we'll have more still, almost very soon. We hit the Bonucci one.
Yeah, sure. Did you do the last story? No, I did. So
Yeah.
you take it. I read the last story.
Okay, yes.
Studio. Yes, it does feel so good, especially when we're giving you the latest sports updates inside the locker room on Smooth Breakfast. And we go into our final story for this morning.
So Bonucci joins Juventus and Gonzalo Higuain joins AC Milan. Now, Italian defender Leonardo Bonucci has joined Serie A champions Juventus from AC Milan, while striker Gonzalo Higuain has moved to the opposite way. AC Milan will pay 18 million euros for the loan of Higuain and have the option to make the deal permanent in a year by paying a fee of 36 million euros. Good deal? Bad deal?
good deal for AC Milan. They get themselves the walking, talking, scoring statistics. They get themselves someone who will give them real numbers, and the experience of Higuain and the quality in front of goal would really come through for AC Milan. But for Juventus, I'm not quite sure. Bonucci went to AC Milan, and it looked like his career was going down. But he's returning to a club where he understands the workings of the football club, understands how the things work at Juventus. He's been there for a very long time. He went there to AC Milan, and now he's back at Juventus. So I think AC Milan are getting the better deal. They also got another Juventus player in Calderi, the defender. So I think Juventus, AC Milan rather, have got themselves a very, very good deal in one of the best strikers in Europe.
Okay, so well, like you mentioned, do you think that it was because of the Cristiano Ronaldo factor that actually made him leave? That's Higuain, because he scored 40 goals last season, and Ronaldo is also 32, about 32, so they're around the same age, and they could possibly give the same value.
I think Ronaldo will give more value because of who Ronaldo is, but Higuain, I think sometimes when you stay at a club where you're not quite comfortable with the next guy who's going to come and clearly outshine you, he just comes in, he hasn't kicked the ball, and all of a sudden they've sold more of his shirts more than they've sold your shirt in 2 years. So it's something that maybe could play in his mind. I wouldn't think so, because Higuain is a very confident lad. He can score lots and lots of goals, but you never know. You just never know.
All right, and on that note, we've pretty much come to the end of the locker room for this morning. We round up with several of your messages. Nathan Njoku sends in this tweet saying, "Let's not be sentimental about it. Ahmed Musa has the pace, but most times, like Rashford, doesn't know what to do with the ball after running the whole yard, and they sometimes run and forget the ball behind them." Fair enough. Thompson Tosayo says Arsenal really do need more than a miracle to win the Premier League, and they don't have what it takes this season. And I'm saying this because I am an Arsenal fan for life. It's all right. We hear you. Just feeling sad out there. Chimobi Victor comes back with a tweet saying players are moving to better clubs like Real Madrid, Aimba, Arsenal, and Barcelona. Ahmed Musa chose Saudi Arabia, where we won't watch him play. He's interested in his pockets right now. It's not about you watching him.
This one, Bash from Yaba says, please tell your analysts that Arsenal won the FA Cup 3 times in 4 years. That was enough for them to win other major honours. As for the game against Chelsea, why did they change their keeper check when it was a friendly?
Testing, 1, 2. That's all. We've got more still coming in. Shay says, please, when will this NFF season movie end? It is bad. And must Nigeria host us about 2018? All right. He says, please also anyone update me on Chelsea and Man U transfers, because even our politicians here are more busy than Chelsea on the transfer market. Defection. On that note, we're done. Thank you very much, everyone. We appreciate your messages, we appreciate your tweets, and we appreciate you watching us on the live stream. Coming up next, it's a feel-good Friday, but it's also a musical one. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. It's Smooth Breakfast with officially the smoothest sounds on Lagos Radio.
These 2 days have been magical.